So I've been in the business of flipping cars for over 7 years now. And although right now it is to a point where I thank God I have complete financial and time freedom, being able to basically just do just about whatever I want, whenever I want to do, and be able to drive cars like this and flip them after and make good profit off it. It wasn't always like that. So I want to tell you exactly what I had to do to get to this point and how to do things legally as well. Key point on the legally part as well. What's up? My name is Jamal from Flipping University. In this channel, I help people that might not have too much mechanical experience go from amateur to expert flipping cars so that they can build a life of freedom. And just getting right to it, as a precursor to the rest of the video, I will just say this isn't going to be the type of video where it's going to be a lot of fast cuts, jumping in and out and looking at different things. This is just my time, just being real with you guys. I'm just here chilling out. I'm mainly making this video just to be somewhat of a help to the people that might have been in the same might be in the same situation now as what I was in the past. And I know there's a couple of things that I went through that I'm sure a lot of other people are going through as well, and that's why I want to make this video, just to help you guys out along your journey, just so you don't have to go through some of the mistakes that I had to go through as well. But before anything else, before we get all the way to the part of me, working for myself and all that stuff, I do want to go to the beginning, to like where I grew up and stuff like that, because it all kind of does lead back into the same point. All right, so just starting up, first of all, I want to say, like, I grew up in not the greatest area realistically. I live in New York now. I was born in Queens, Far Rockaway. The people that don't know, it's basically like the hood type of area of Queens. I'm not gonna act like we didn't have nothing. Like, it wasn't like that where we were like, barely getting by completely and we didn't have nothing to our name. Like, we were still able to make ends meet and stuff like that. Like, my father, he works for cable, and my mother is like a stay-at-home mother, so it was mainly just one breadwinner, primarily for the house. And I had like two other brothers and sisters that was above me as well. And just growing up, my main thing that I saw, it was just like, I would say thank God, like, it wasn't like I had a father that was some cheating father or something like that, but realistically I just saw we didn't have a lot to get. Like, we didn't have a lot of money to just be splurging out on things. It's funny, it seems like every time I start up a video out here, there's someone doing some lawn work outside. I'm hoping you guys aren't going to hear that too much and mainly just hear me. But yeah, just getting back into everything, like, I just saw that, like, we didn't have a lot of money to get, like, just random splurges and stuff like that. So for me, I was always a little bit more independent. Like, realistically, I wouldn't just be going out just asking my parents for like a lot of different things, just because even being younger, I kind of just saw how it was. Like, I didn't want to be putting the stress on them and making them feel like, they weren't doing things right or something like that themselves. So even when I was like, 10 years old or whatever, I'd basically just wait until the time that they're ready to possibly give me something. It wasn't where I was just always wanting whatever what the next thing was. But eventually I did, we did end up moving out of Queens. Thank God we moved to Long Island, which is like the better part of New York and stuff. But it still was around the same. I think we were in a better area, but still realistically it wasn't like, we still had a lot of money to spend as a family from what I saw. And even going past that too, it ended up not just being us, like the three siblings in the beginning. It also ended up being where it was a full family of, like, I have four other brothers and sisters that came after me. I was like the youngest in the group, and then there was four after me that came as well. And it was great. I mean, of course, I love my family. We're a very close family. And I would even say I thank God we did have the opportunity to be able to travel, which was awesome, because not everybody gets that opportunity as well. But it was still realistically like the same thing. Don't worry, I'm going to be leading into the whole business stuff in a second. But just saying this first just because I want to just break down like where I came from, like the mindset I came from to even get me into business and stuff to begin with. But going into things too, I will say as a great thing, my father was mechanically inclined himself. Like, he wasn't a mechanic or anything like that, but he's just one of those guys where he's just a backyard mechanic. Problems came up with his car over time, and he learned as well, and he kind of just passed that knowledge down to me. I will say when I was younger, I definitely could have did a better job to just learn more from him, because there'd be times where, like, let's say when I got my first car, it wasn't where I'd be ready to fix it right away. Like, he'd teach me certain things about it, and I'd have basic knowledge. And I thank God that knowledge allowed me to be to the point where I'm not like afraid to work on cars myself. But I was definitely the person where I was like kind of procrastinating, with things. Something would come up with the car, he'd tell me to fix it, and then something ended up breaking later on, because I didn't fix it in time. But I will say I do thank God that was a thing. I did have some knowledge of cars going into everything. But from what I would say, one of the biggest turnarounds, honestly, of my childhood, just growing up and everything, really happened like a little after I graduated high school. At that point, I was still in Long Island and everything like that, still in New York and all. And there was this one day I came back from work. I used to work at UPS at the time. And usually, again, my mom was a stay-at-home mother, and then I had, the other younger brothers and sisters. Usually, at least one of them would be home, like whether it be her or them, and no one was home, so I went around the house. I was checking to see if anyone was there. And I mean, being gone for a couple hours wasn't bad, but like it was like 4 or 5 hours that passed by, and I came back pretty early in the morning, and it was just kind of strange. And it was summertime too, so usually somebody would be there. But just fast forward, I mean, came to find out that she basically took the kids and went down to Florida where my grandparents are. And at the time, I will say I was pretty tight about it and everything, but past by time I ended up understanding where she was coming from. And I'm not going to get into the specifics of things, and there's a lot that kind of comes down to everything, and I'm not going to put all that information out there as well. But realistically, a big part of it was the finances. Not everything, there's a lot more to it again, but a big part of it was the finances. Just for me, realistically, going from there on, I definitely did just have more of a drive to just want to do more, especially on the financial part. Like I knew already at that point, especially when coming out of high school, I knew I wanted to have like a family of my own, and my own things and stuff like that. And not just be some playboy. Like I wanted to actually have my own family and stuff, but I didn't want it to be where that would potentially be a problem coming up in the future, where we potentially get divorced or something like that, me and my wife, just because of finances alone. So going from there, I did try a couple of different other things. I even tried other businesses. I'm pretty sure you guys know stuff like Amway and all that stuff. It wasn't Amway I jumped into, though I did get presented by them. It was just other like network marketing type stuff. But it was all kind of coming back to that same reasoning where I was just like, I just wanted to do more, and have like that financial freedom. And I wanted to have time freedom too. I wanted to be potentially that father and that husband and stuff like that would just have freedom to be able to do what I want, with my family and with my friends and all that stuff as well, and not have to be stressing about the money or the time. But I mean, a couple of years went by. The network marketing stuff just wasn't for me. I mean, I'm not gonna say it's a complete scam. Some people make success over it, but like for me, it's just not the way to go. So eventually, I ended up stopping with that. And at the time, I was working at Sprint, and that kind of leads me into the next thing. Like that was the job that I actually had, and the job that I'm gonna lead into, which was the job that I basically quit as my last job that I was working for. And with that job, I will say it wasn't a bad job. Like it was sales. I actually do like sales. I can't say that I was out there breaking my back and out like that. I was making pretty good money, and the people that were there also. I mean, there's people that was like 30 to 40 years old and whatnot still working there and been there for a while, just because they thought it was a pretty good job as well. If you don't know much about sales, like the great thing about sales is you can make a lot of money if you're good at it. And I was one of the better ones. I wouldn't say I was like the best all the time. Like I'd be slacking at times and stuff like that, just because I was kind of wandering and stuff. But when I was serious about it, like I would be one of the top ones in the district or the top ones in the state and stuff like that. But leading on from there, the tough thing about it was just the fact that like even though I was in that position where I had like a good job and everything like that, and it wasn't like I was struggling to make ends meet really. I mean, I was still basically good in terms of like bills and stuff like that. I just felt like I could do more. I felt like God had more like planned for me to be able to like grow with over time. And especially with business, honestly, I just had this feeling for myself that like I would be a business owner at someday. Just for me, being in a job just would be, it would kind of be a limit to me. I felt like there'd be always more that I could climb, and working for anyone wouldn't be able to get me to that limit that I'd want to have for myself. So from there, honestly, I mean, if you knew me back then, I wouldn't say that I was walking around looking depressed or something like that, but just realistically, I just remember myself being in that state. I'd go home each day and I kind of just be like down, where I'm just like, dang, bro, like what is next? Like, I mean, I tried the network marketing stuff, that didn't work. I don't believe I want to go far with like college or something like that, or with going other jobs. Like I just felt stuck, and I was just like, I don't know what else to do, But eventually, it came time to where I had a best friend I'm still cool with now as well, and I knew him before already being into the car flipping stuff, but realistically, I never really like asked that much about it. He was always just the person that would just kind of save money over time and look to buy a car for a good deal and kind of turn around for profit and stuff like that later on. But there was one time where we ended up chilling out. I went over to his house. We were chilling in the living room and everything, just having like a casual talk. And he told me about one of the last flips that he had, and it was a pretty cool car. It was like a C4 or C5 Corvette, and at first I was kind of like, not really thinking too much about it. Like I wasn't even paying a little bit of attention, but I wasn't like too deep into what he was saying. But he quickly mentioned like what he bought the car for. I think he bought it for around like 3,000 to 4,000, something like that. And he didn't really put that much work into it, and then he sold it, and he made about $3,000 profit off of it. And again, he didn't really do much work at all. Probably said like he put in maybe like 7 hours or so of work into it. So at that point, I was like, whoa, wait a second, like, light bulb went off. Like, he didn't. No shame against him, but it's not like I would see him as being someone that's like, some crazy smart guy where, he's doing something that I really felt like I couldn't do. Like, he's a smart guy, but I felt like, what he'd be to do, I'd be to do as well. And honestly, at the time, I even had more mechanical experience than him as well. Not a crazy amount, but enough to be able to get me by and everything. And when he first started up himself, he really didn't know much of anything about cars like that. So I was like, you know what? Maybe I should give this a chance. And mind you, too, when I was working for Sprint, it wasn't like I was making decent money. Like maybe in a month I could bring home like 4,000 on a good month, maybe 5,000 a month or something like that. But to think that after that little bit of time that he put in, like 7 hours of work, he made $3,000 profit. That's just about what I would make in a whole month of me working, 40 hours per week and everything. I was like, all right, I gotta try this out too. So, I asked a couple questions, how to get into it myself and all. He taught me some things, and I will say it wasn't a crazy amount that he taught me. He was still kind of getting started with things himself as well, and he wasn't really like full-time with things. It was kind of just a side hustle, but he taught me some things. And just starting up, I only saved like 2,000 to 3,000. It wasn't a crazy amount, but it was enough to get me started. And I started doing that. Like, let's say while I was at my job at Sprint, the cool thing too with Sprint was like I ended up moving to a different store where it wasn't as busy. So the time where I'd be like on free time where customers wasn't coming in, I'd be there on Facebook just searching through cars and stuff. And then when I leave work, boom, I'll check it out. Try to get a car to flip, and then generally speaking, I would be able to do pretty well with the cars. It kept going with that. I did that for probably about, I don't know, maybe like a year or two before it came to the point where like I started to pray about it and everything. And I was like, all right, I feel like I should take this to the next level. And it wasn't even just my own thought. Like I prayed about it, and it became like a press on me. Like, I don't know if you've experienced this before yourself, especially for people that kind of go to God and stuff like that themselves as well. But it was just a press on me. Like I felt like if I didn't do that, if I didn't go full time with it and quit my job and everything, like I'd really be regretting it in the future. So I ended up doing it. It was definitely the most exciting and a little scary way all in one day. Obviously was excited to like I did it the respectful way too. I didn't go taking my shirt and throwing it at the manager, not like that. Like I did quit. I put in my 2 weeks and stuff like that. But of course, it was a little nervous just because you're going from, all right, you're certain that a paycheck's gonna come, at a certain time each month, to not knowing at all, when your next paycheck really is. But yeah, so the funny thing is that was actually the beginning of 2020. And if most people, anywhere around the world know what that year kind of started. Like that was the start of the pandemic and everything. But I'm not gonna get to that just yet. But boom, get started with everything. Everything's looking pretty good overall, But then the pandemic hits and things change. Like, I wasn't just going that simple route myself of just getting, racking up with, the pandemic money and stuff like that. But obviously that was the case for a lot of people. People stopped working. People had more money than they usually even would. And the tough part with the economy at that point, especially when it came to flipping cars, was, yes, I mean, it was nice that you could sell a car quick because people had the money to spend. So even cars that were a little bit more expensive could sell a lot quicker than they usually would. At the same time, they'd sell a lot faster as well, and it would basically make it harder for you to buy a car, right? And realistically, when you're flipping a car, buying a car is like one of the most important parts of the whole process. So it started to get pretty tough for me. And even on top of that too, there was this one instance where so before that, as a quick backstory, when I was flipping the cars, I'm going to talk about how I do it legally now, but when I first started, I was doing it in what I thought to be like a smart way. Like I didn't even know it was wrong at the time, but I would basically do it where I'd buy a car and I'd have the title for the car. I wouldn't sign it. I'd basically just leave it as an open title, and I just let the next person that buys the car sign it over and everything. It wasn't until later where I came to find out, like, all right, that's actually illegal, right? And I was like, all right, so there's got to be some other way to do it. And again, like, I'm a Christian person. Like, I don't believe in just doing things the wrong way. I'm trying to do things the right way, So eventually I was like, all right, I got to do the right way of this. Like, and realistically, generally speaking, for the whole car business stuff, it's either you're doing it, flipping on the side yourself, not as like a full-on car dealership or a car dealer, or you're a car dealer and you have like an unlimited amount of cars that you could sell. And generally most states are like that. They have like a limit. My limit in a year would be like 5 cars I could sell in a year for New York. So eventually I was just like, all right, something's gotta change. Like it's just starting to get a lot tougher, being able to find cars and stuff like that. And then I don't want it to be the case where I'm end up getting into some like legal trouble or something like that, just because of how many cars I'm selling, and I'm doing it that way specifically as well. And of course, if you're doing it the other way, where you're registering the car yourself and stuff, I mean, you could, but it just takes a lot longer realistically as well. So just through the just time of me selling cars and stuff like that, I actually, thank God, ended up meeting this person that was also a car dealer himself, and he told me about something that he's in. Like, he's basically where he's a car dealer. He actually goes to dealer auctions and stuff like that. Okay, so I actually had to record this again because the original recording ended up getting cut out for whatever reason. But just going back into it, like, what the guy mainly started talking about was just basically you're going to be, as a whole general statement, under another dealership. You're going to be kind of like referred in under them. You're not really like a employee for them, but you're just under the dealership, and because of that, you're able to get access to what a dealer would actually get access to as well. So you could go to the auctions, like the dealer auctions. You could also have as many cars that you want to sell in a year. You could sell it's an infinite amount, and just those two things alone was like a pretty big thing. And I'm not gonna go too deep into it. I put like a whole video together. I'll put up like a little card that you could click into if you want to go watching that and stuff. But that's not fully what the whole video is about, like training you how to do that. But he told me about it, and at first I was a little skeptical, just because it's the type of thing where you do have to invest into still. And the person that was really sponsoring the whole thing, like, it didn't seem like that crazy or reputable source, to be honest. Like, he does help other people get into the whole auction access program as well, but at the time he only had like a little Facebook post, like a Facebook ad basically, showing what he does and showing like the help that he does and everything. And I will say he was in New Jersey, so it wasn't like he's that far away. But time went on, and I was still having like the same problems, still getting harder to buy cars and stuff. I was probably going into like 2021 type of area at that point. And at that point I was just like, all right, well, things aren't getting any easier. I might as well just try it out, right? So I took the leap of faith. Instead of just sending him the money, though, like, I could have done that as well. I ended up just driving over to him. He's only a state away from where I am. But I saw that he was a legit business person. I saw what he did. I saw the paperwork and stuff like that. And I signed up into the auction access program. And I will say, when I first got started, it still was like, I was a little skeptic. I wasn't about to go like taking all my money that I had and go dumping onto the next car from the auction. There was an auction by me that's like probably 30 minutes away from me. I went there. It's usually on like Fridays that it's hosted. And first of all, I wanted to see how good the auction prices were, because that was obviously another part. I wanted to potentially be able to just make buying cars just an easier process. So I ended up finding a car. It was actually like a 2003 or 2004 Ford Taurus, and I bought it. It was so cheap. I was so surprised too. Like not even just with that car, but other cars too. But I bought it for like $400 to $500. It didn't need much of any work with it. I literally just had to detail it, and I quickly sold it within like a couple of days for like $1,500. So I made around like $1,000 profit for it. And after that, I was like, dang, bro, like, that's crazy. First of all, I mean, if you flipped cars before, you know it's not an easy thing getting a $500 car. You could, and I've done it, but it's not an easy thing getting a $500 car through private sales. So I was like, yo, this is lit. And I thank God, I mean, there's been a good amount of time past that. Like, that was 2021, I believe, like the beginning of 2021. And now it's going into 2024. So I've been into the whole auction access program for a while. And I thank God it's still been going well, like really well. Like it's to the point where I could go there, and whether it be the auction I go to in person or the one that I use like online auctions as well, I'm able to get cars pretty easily. And I still go through private sale as well, but I don't do it as much, to be honest. But either works good realistically. But it is to the point now where it's like I really don't have to work much per week. Like I could literally do like probably 20 hours a week or even 10 hours in a week and be good for the month. And that's why I even have time to be able to do stuff like this, making a YouTube channel and stuff like that as well. But just going back with everything, as a quick wrap up, I just got to say, like, if you're in that same type of position where I was, where you're kind of coming from a position where you're like, what do you do next in life? Like, you're feeling kind of stuck. You don't know what's like your path. First of all, just be patient. Think about where you want your life to go. Don't just take whatever your next step is just to try to make some quick buck. Like, think about how you actually want your life to be. And then take a leap of faith. Don't be afraid to take that leap of faith if you feel like that is your calling. And then a couple of things with that, just make sure you're staying consistent. Of course, there's going to be a lot of ups and downs with the whole thing. That's life in general. And find a mentor. You can't do this stuff all yourself, especially with something like flipping cars. Like, there's a lot that goes into the whole business. It might seem very simple and easy at first, but there's a lot that goes into the whole thing. And there's a lot of reasons why people end up failing and quitting with the whole thing. Even dealers end up quitting just because there's a lot more to it. So you want to try to find a mentor. If you want that mentor to be me as one of them, that's cool. If not me, it could be something else as well. But make sure you find a mentor so that you don't have to be going through all the mistakes and the hurdles that most people would have to go through, and end up just wasting a lot more time and money as well. And the other thing as well, I did want to put in there, just because I know that the auction access stuff is great, but it's not going to help everyone out there. Some people just don't want to take it that far. I did also want to put together a cheat sheet for you guys. It's a car flipping cheat sheet. It's my own process that I would actually use to be able to go over just the fundamentals of flipping a car, like the main things that you have to look out for when it comes to buying the right car to flip. And if you're into flipping cars already, you know that the purchase of the car is really the most important part. So this is just going over my method of just the way to not only make sure it's a good car to flip and you make good profit off of, but also to lower your risk as much as possible. Because if you checked out this channel, I don't like to take much risks at all. So if you want access to that, just go to the link in the description below as well. But that's about everything. Hopefully this video will be helpful for you, and if it was, and if you want to learn more stuff like this to just help you out with flipping cars, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell to be alerted when the next video drops. And until next time, peace.